Thursdays are usually super busy for me. It is my errands day, and I use Thursdays as like my own day out. So I pack all of the things that I have to do, plus all of the stuff that I just want to do on my own, just like by myself. I pack all of that stuff into my Thursdays. On this Thursday, I had my in-town errands, but I also had to drive out into the country to go to my friend's house and pick up my Azure Standard order, which comes once a month. And that is a company that we can buy like bulk grains and lots of organic foods and just kind of a healthier foods alternative. And they deliver around the country. And there's different drop sites around the country. And so my friend Glenda has one at her house. And so I drove out to pick up my stuff from her, did my in-town errands, visited some wildlife in my yard and along the road. And then I decided to set up a tea party for myself. I had found a few things at town that kind of just reminded me of my time in England and decided I was going to come home and prepare a tea party. So I made some egg salad sandwiches, some chicken salad. I made cucumber sandwiches. And then I tried out this cream scone recipe, which I had never tried before. I just found it online. Usually when I make scones, I do like butter and a pastry blender. And this was a totally different method, using all cream instead of butter and, whatever. So I did end up liking it a lot. And they weren't necessarily any easier than the scones that I make, but I did really like the flavor. I used these canning jar lids to sort of, make the shape because I didn't have a biscuit cutter, but I'm probably the only person in the South without a biscuit cutter. But I just wanted to make some sandwiches and things similar to what I have when I'm in England and prepared myself a pretty little tea party. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my Thursday night tea party. So I kind of came up with this idea this morning when I discovered that the new Whole Foods that was just built in our area carries clotted cream. And I have not been able to find this anywhere in all of the years that I lived here in Northwest Arkansas. This is the first time. So my imagination started going everywhere. And so I decided I was going to put together this tea party and enjoy it this evening while I am getting started on Jane Austen July. Thursday nights at my house are pretty quiet for me. My husband and my son leave for this kind of gaming group that they do that play card games. And so they are gone down south for the night. And so all my girls just kind of go their separate ways and do whatever they want to do. And I'm left with a quiet house to kind of do whatever I want to do. And so I got this idea of doing these Thursday night tea parties, at least through the month of July, to celebrate Jane Austen July. And then, I don't know, maybe it'll become a thing and I'll just, every Thursday night, just do a tea party and vlog about it. So tonight I put together this little tea for myself. It's quite a bit later than I normally eat my dinner. I actually made an afternoon tea, so I guess I've made a dinner tea for myself, but I set it up like an afternoon tea. I've been running around doing errands, and I'm tired, and I'm ready just to relax with my delicious, tray of stuff here. And I'm planning on watching the show. What did I tell you guys it was called? Jane Austen, Rise of a Genius. Yeah, it's kind of like a 3-part little series that was put together and released last year. And so I found it on Amazon. I think I got it because of BritBox or something. But anyway, I'm going to watch that, at least start watching it, and enjoy this tray of foods. So I thought I would talk to you guys about what I put together here real quick before I do get going. So this tray is similar to what I like to order when I go for afternoon tea in England. I made 3 kinds of sandwiches. I've got cucumber, and it's just butter and cucumber, which is not my favorite, but I kind of wanted to recreate stuff that I have actually had and the way I've had it. And so that's how I've had it, with butter and cucumber. But I prefer like a herbed cream cheese thing that's kind of like ranch. And ranch, I don't know, isn't like a traditional thing in the UK. So anyway, as far as I know. But I got that. I've got an egg salad, which is kind of heavy on the mustard side. And then I have chicken salad with cranberries and celery. That one is kind of a fudge. I have had some coronation chicken sandwiches that are sort of similar to that, but it just sounded really good to me, so I made it. Okay, and then I have made some scones, which I'll tell you a funny scone story here in a second. And then I've got my homemade raspberry jam there. Normally when I have a cream tea in England, I do have strawberry jam, but raspberry sounded good, and it goes with my fizzy drink over there that I'll share in a minute. All right, and then I have got my little, like I said, my little pot of cream. That's as big as they come here, guys. So I need to learn how to make it homemade because I paid $10 for that little thing. And then I have some of my favorite cookies on top. No time to make cookies today, but I did get Milanos, which are these ones. They're dark chocolate. If you've never had Pepperidge Farm, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a soft, crispy cookie with dark chocolate in the middle. And then these are Verona, apricot, raspberry. And those are my 2 favorite of the Pepperidge Farm pretty cookies. All right, and then I've got just Earl Grey in the teapot. And I found this little pot for milk at Hobby Lobby, which I think is adorable. So I got that for my milk. And then I do take a little bit of sugar. I forgot to grab that. So I might grab that, and I might just not even have it. I don't know. And then I also, last year when I was in England, I found that I really enjoyed ordering a fizzy drink whenever I went to tea. I don't know, it just kind of became a thing that I would order because there's all kinds of like fruity, fizzy drinks. It's not pop. It's like carbonated orange juice or something. I don't know. But they don't taste like pop. They taste like an actual fruit juice. It's probably not, but you know. Anyway, so I made this one, and this is raspberry limeade. And so I have a bunch of raspberry jam and like syrups that I have preserved. And so if the jam, it's all supposed to be jam, but if it comes out runny, it ends up being syrup, and I use it like for crepes and stuff. And so I use that to flavor my drink. Let's see if I can stir it up, and maybe you can see a little bit of stuff in there. I don't know. And then there's my lime, because last week I made several Mexican dishes one night that required lime. So I had like all these limes because I had, taken the zest off of the outer part of it. But there was still all the lime juice inside. So I put them in a baggie in my fridge, and I was like, that's perfect for my lime drink. So I'm going to try that and see how that goes. My little cup here is Ironstone. It is from England, Adams, and I can't tell, maybe I can through my phone now. Established, is this 1657 or 1857? I can't tell. So we'll look it up later online, and then I'll let you know. But anyway, that's my little set there. I have no idea where I got it. I've just had it forever. And, and then my little dishes. I am using this little pot here for my clotted cream, because I like to put it in there and then spread it, so I don't get stuff in my jar. And then I've got this little plate here, the white one with the gold dots for my scone, and then the green and pink is what I'm going to put my sandwiches on. So that's all my stuff. Now, this is probably like the only time I ever will eat white bread because it's just, so gross. It's like glue. But that's usually what I get at afternoon tea. Sometimes I'll get like a nice grain sort of bread, but for the most part, it's white bread. So that's what I made them on. But it's not awesome. But the funny thing I wanted to tell you about the scone actually isn't about the scone. It's about my son Liam. It just reminded me. A whole conversation happened. But my son Liam, who's 16, I talked to you guys about him a lot. He's the only son living at home. So he's kind of like, I have 5 daughters, my husband and I. So it's kind of like the Bennetts plus, I guess, of all the Pride and Prejudice guys, he'd probably be Mr. Bingley. Like, he's happy, he's easygoing, he's funny, and, you know, he just takes care of us all, and he's a sweet kid. So anyway, so earlier today I got home with my groceries, and me and Liam and then a couple of my other daughters, Brenna and Avalon, were helping me put away the groceries. And so in our kitchen, we have this door that goes out to the garage. And so when you go out there, it shuts behind you, right? Okay, so I'm standing inside the kitchen by that door putting things away. And Liam has gone out to the garage to put things away. And when he comes back to try to come back in the kitchen, I just hear this tiny little voice talking, like super quietly and high pitched. And I turn and he's got his hands up like this on the window. And he's like, "Heathcliff, let me in your window." And I'm like, that's perfect. Like, so proud mother moment. It's a little bit more from the Kate Bush song and a little bit less from the book that he's not read, but I was proud. Anyway, that's so off topic. So I'm going to sit down and enjoy my spread here. I'm actually really, really excited to have this nice little, you know, tea that I've had made here. And I'm going to watch that show. And then later on, I want to read, this. This is that memoir called My Aunt Jane Austen, a memoir by Caroline Austen. And this was written a long time ago, and then just, I guess, saved by the family and published in the 1950s, I believe. I'll let you know more when I've actually read it. But, so I'm going to read that. It's just a really short little memoir that I'm looking forward to going through. And then I've been reading Pride and Prejudice for like the last 4 days. I started it before Jane Austen July, but it's not actually on my TBR for Jane Austen July, so it's okay. But I really need to finish it up and get started on some of my other fiction. So I'll probably try to finish up Pride and Prejudice tonight. I have like maybe 160 pages, but I've already gone through the big Darcy moment, and I've already gone through the letter, and so, I mean, it's all just downhill from there in an uphill sort of way. All right, I'm gonna eat, and I'll check in with you later. All right, so I have finished episode 1 of the Jane Austen Rise of a Genius series on, I'm watching it on Amazon I'm watching it on BritBox through Amazon. So if you're looking for it. The keyword is tea. I am really enjoying it. I have cried more than once. Right off the bat, when you pull it up on Amazon, there are content warnings that say smoking and profanity and sexual content. I can't remember if there's anything else on there. But I found it to be like, it's sexual content is more like talk. There's not actual like acts happening. It's talk about, for instance, they're talking about Jane's cousin Eliza, and how she, once she was widowed, now had sexual freedom, right? Because she was more of an independent woman being single. So it's kind of like that sort of talk, like, but there's no images or anything. And profanity, yes, there's some profanity. It's one of the, they have like, they go in between sort of like a recreation sort of dramatics and then like interviewing people, you know, like a documentary. It is a documentary. And one of the people that they're sort of interviewing during documentary, he cusses a few times, but that's the extent of it. So if you're concerned about content warnings or whatever, like so far at least for the first episode, that's what's going on there. I really liked it. I'm excited. I am looking forward to watching the other two. I don't know if I will do them sometime this week or wait till like my next tea party. I don't really know, but I will definitely be finishing them within the week. I started to take some notes, but I was like all situated here with all my stuff. And so I wrote on the back of my paper plates. to take notes for you guys. So on my scone plate, I wrote, I'm loving the spirit of young Jane. So it starts off with her being maybe like 17 and just spunky and fun and funny and it's lively and just it's fun to see that portrayal of Jane Austen. I think I've seen two like movies that feature her as as a nonfiction character, and it's Becoming Jane, where she starts off as a young teenager too, but it's Anne Hathaway, and so you're thinking Anne Hathaway, right, and all the things that she's in. And then Miss Austen Regrets, which is that Olivia Colman? That movie, love it, but she's older, right? So to have this like young teenage Jane, but not played by an actress that I'm already familiar with, that's really fun. Okay, and I was loving the colors in this film, and just like the realness of the people around her, and how people are dressed like in realistic clothing, cottons and linens, and their hair isn't perfect, right? And like just to see like this society, she's not in like this hoity-toity society. I mean, she's just barely on the upper class side, with her father being a clergyman who's still considered a gentleman, but not up there with the gentry, Anyway, and so the people around her are just kind of dressed like everyday people, and I just love it. I love the colors. I love the costumes that they're wearing. I love the hair. I love the atmosphere. I love that everything is lit by candles and sunlight through the windows, and I just totally love it. All right, and then we've got my larger plates where I have noticed, I loved this, where one of the people, I think it was Helen Fielding, talked about how Jane's father gave her a writing lap desk, and it was like him giving her permission to be an author. Oh, I loved that. I just thinking about how special that was to her, and having the vote of confidence from her father. He was, the one that suggested that she did try to publish in the first place. But just to have that in a time where, right, women didn't really have many rights and weren't really encouraged to write like that, and have her own father do that, fantastic. They have her laying on the couch in his library reading while he's working, and I just that whole image, I love that so much, of the thought that he encouraged her to pursue her mind. We heard a lot from Paula Byrne in this episode, and I really liked that. I've read several books by Paula Byrne, and I've pictured this little old lady. It's not a little old lady, Paula Byrne. She's young, and she is very passionate about Jane Austen, and I thought that was cool. It was neat to see her in person. These, at least this first episode, it does spoil her books, her writing, so just be aware of that. That'd be a bad thing if you don't want to know what happens, but that can be a good thing if you want to get the basic gist of the story, if you're struggling to understand some of the stories. But it does give a lot of insight into the stories and why Jane may have written them. Basically, it's putting all of her stories on a timeline of her life, right? So the documentary is about Jane, but every time it comes to a point in her life where she is writing a particular, story, it shows how the things that are happening in her real life probably or could have influenced that story and caused her to take what was in her real life and put it on the page. I really like making those connections. I was really overcome at the point where it talks about how Jane was offered marriage with Harris Bigwither, and then declined it. And it paints a picture of her accepting it because that was what was sort of expected. And, you know, the idea of being wealthy and not having to worry about how she was going to, you know, make her way in the world. That was, you know, some motivation for marrying. But after she said yes and went up to bed that night and thought it through, in this show, they're portraying it that she realized, hey, maybe I wouldn't be able to write. Maybe I wouldn't have the freedom of thought and the freedom to read, and the freedom to learn and be self-educated. And among other things, when it comes right down to it, I don't actually even love this guy. And for her to choose integrity, and for her to choose her passion, and for her to choose the risk of possibly never ever being married, and the risk of maybe having to financially struggle. And ultimately she ends up denying Harris the next morning, and then they have to leave, right? They got to get out of there because they have offended. But she does. She refuses him, and they mentioned that she was 27. She would only live another 14 years. She died at 41. So this Jane at 27 thinking, do I want to spend decades and decades and decades with a person that I don't love, living a life that I'm not passionate about, just so I can please society and possibly have some stability that I might possibly not have otherwise? And she chose her passions. She only lived another 14 years. She followed her integrity. She followed her conscience. Integrity was really important to my dad. And he used to describe integrity to me as being able to, you know, stand at the bathroom mirror when you go to bed at night and look yourself straight in the eye and not feel like you need to look away. And then to get up the next morning and do the same thing, right? To be able to look yourself in the eye, because you don't have things that you're embarrassed about. You don't have things that you're ashamed of. You don't have secrets. You're not living a lie. You're just living a straight, possibly boring, but at least morally straight, stable life. He used to tell me, you know, that's the kind of person you want to be. And that's what I thought of when I was watching this part, is like, that was what Jane Austen chose. She chose to be able to look herself in the eye every night before she went to bed, and every morning when she got up, and be proud of who she was and not feel like she needed to look away. And, you know, that she had, you know, was disloyal to herself or whatever. And thank God that she did, right? Because we wouldn't have all of these, you know, we wouldn't have all of these stories. And I think even though she did only live another 14 years, they were full. And she did things that she could be proud of, right? And things that were in her heart. So anyway, totally loving this series. I'm really glad that I decided to watch it. So that's my little review from part 1. And now I'm going to clean up all of my tea things. Then I'm going to read this little book, and then I'm going to go back into Pride and Prejudice and see how far I get before I crash. Hope everybody is doing good and enjoying Jane Austen July so far. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.